I'm Mike Hogue from Lily House, and today we're going to talk about permaculture and money, or using permaculture to design your life and right livelihood. And for us at Lily House, this is some of the most important material in all of permaculture. But unfortunately, because people enter permaculture through the garden gate, we tend to focus so much on production and growing and plants and animals that we never get into this material. But this is some of the biggest, most high impact material in all of permaculture. This is the real permaculture. And everything I'm about to talk about comes straight from Bill Mollison. This is almost entirely just from his talks and his PDC, and yet a lot of people are really unfamiliar with it. So in a way, this presents permaculture as an alternative to things like farming and production-based livelihoods. And it's more about designing your life to naturally accumulate the kinds of energies that will get you where you want to go. In fact, today in the permaculture movement, there's this saying, if you want to do permaculture, do farming. And it turns out that's a really different perspective than Mollison himself had. In fact, at the end of his talks like this, people would say, oh, that's all fine and good, but how do I apply that to my organic farm? And Bill Mollison would say, and I'm quoting here, the last thing any of us should be doing is any kind of farming. And of course, he was being provocative with that. He was kind of trolling his audience. But what he really wanted was for us to think more deeply about what we want and how to get there, instead of just falling into old stereotypes of conventional farming. Because it turns out, from his perspective, farming might not actually get us where we want to go. It might be what he called the type 1 error, which is a system designed to fail. Okay? So, for example, most people get into farming because they want things like this. They want to reconnect with nature. They want to have a better relationship with nature. They want to have a better relationship with their community and reconnect with community. They want to take back control over their food. They want to take back control over their livelihood. They want to get out of the corporate grind. They realize internally that it's something that just isn't suiting them. They want to have better health. They want to do something positive for climate change, for the environment. They want to live a regenerative life. But when it comes down to it, the conventional ways we think about farming might be the wrong design to actually get us to any of those things. For example, when it comes to right livelihood, the average farmer hasn't made money, hasn't made a single dollar of profit in 6 years. The average farmer is making something like $3 an hour, according to a few studies that you can see cited on our blog at Lily House. And even if you look at the people who are those YouTube farmers teaching those classes on how to get rich doing farming, they're making if you look at their own numbers, they claim to be making like $10 an hour, $12 an hour. Best case scenario, they're often making $15 an hour, and that's with a lot of exploited labor and maybe hiding a lot of their costs. And when it comes to doing something positive for the earth, they find that they're ending up using tons of plastic. That kind of farming is quickly becoming the #1 cause of plastic pollution. They're tilling the soil like 7 times a season and flushing all their nitrogen and fertilizer and carbon up into the atmosphere and out into the ocean. When it comes to having more time for their families or getting out of that corporate grind, they find they're working 80 hours a week all season long. In the winter, they're doing more sales calls and doing that kind of work than your average local sales department for an auto car place. Auto car, that's a thing. So, when it comes to their health and taking control of their food, we've got the saying, the farmer eats last. And it's so often true. The farmers are working so many hours that when it gets to the end of the day, they don't have time left over to turn all of their produce into meals for their families. So they're eating Pizza Hut. And besides that, they already sold all the best looking produce and the produce that requires the least work to their customers. So when it comes to getting what we want, it could be that farming is the wrong design, the wrong mainframe element, and we need to look at redesigning the whole system. And that's what permaculture is about. And really, that's the kind of perspective that Bill Mollison was all about too. And it starts with being clear about what we want. Because if we don't know what we want, how are we going to get it? And that's what we end up with, is a lot of people who've done PDCs or start doing farming, they end up unhappy and feeling discouraged because they never started with understanding deeply what they wanted in the first place. They stopped at, I want to farm. They didn't stop at why they want to farm. So let's start there and be really clear about what we want so that we can design to actually get it. But first off, let's be really clear about what permaculture is. Because to a lot of people these days, permaculture is farming. But permaculture could be so much more than farming, and we really miss out when we limit it to just farming or market gardening. Because permaculture is a system of design that can be applied to all aspects of our lives. So to get that design right, we start by asking, what do you want? What does a wealthy, prosperous life mean to you? For example, to me, here are some of the features that I think about when I look at what a real wealthy life is. I'm not talking about that paper stuff, money. I'm talking about real wealth. For me, it's peace of mind, equanimity, a sense that my life is workable. It's having beautiful surroundings, real food, a rich, natural human habitat. Dunbar's village life. Dunbar's village is this idea of the folk village that humans evolved in. Maybe around 200 people. It's a beautiful way of life where we know everyone and we're really enriched by it. Connection to nature, and I mean real connection to nature, not the kind of that we get through conventional ideas of farming and homesteading, where it's all about spraying that weed and fighting that pest, and we end up looking at nature as our big enemy. I want to look at nature as a part of myself, and myself as part of my ecosystem. A right livelihood. I want to feel that what I'm doing to earn my living with my life energy is making my world and my community a better place. And that goes along with the freedom to never be afraid to say, take this job and shove it if it stops lining up with my values. Culture, art, music, literature, poetry, beauty, self-expression. These are vital to me. And one in the middle there was Midday Movie, which comes from a Jeff Lawton movie where he interviews a farming couple and he catches them watching a movie in the middle of the day, and they feel a little bit guilty because they're supposed to be farming and have this hard work ethic, but they're only working a few hours a day and they're watching a midday movie every day. And when we saw that, it became instant code for us. Because compared to the get-rich-quick farmers on YouTube who are stressing working 80 hours a week, and if you don't get rich, it's only because you didn't work hard enough, we didn't want that. We wanted space and time in our lives, and we valued that more than a few extra dollars. So what is it that you want? I'd like you to be really clear about that. What would a truly wealthy, prosperous, beautiful life look like to you? How would you spend your perfect day?